Alright, so for today, I want to talk about my writing style. And the main reason why is because this took me a couple of years to kind of figure out. Um, and it's kind of really special because everyone's writing style is different, and especially mine is just kind of unique, especially how I do things, how I write, how I get motivated to continue working on novels isn't really like a lot of other writers, and so I just kind of wanted to like record it um, because I feel like it's important to kind of find your own writing style, no matter what it may be, because it's special to you. It's kind of like your fingerprint, and it's how you can best succeed with your own writing. So I have like four main things that kind of make my writing style special. This one is probably the most common that I've heard of other writers probably having issues with, but still kind of uncommon, which is tone whiplash. And this has come up a lot of the times in my stories. There's a scene in the first novel of the Fantastic Fairy Tale where Kate and Insectoid are fighting, and in the middle of that fight, she's cracking jokes a little bit. They're using like rude nicknames, and then all of a sudden it becomes much more dramatic, where Kate's just like, I don't know if I can win. And it's that sort of like sudden change that I really struggle with is transitions. And one way I've kind of learned how to do it is either have like a break in the scene. So I'll do like the three stars if you've noticed that in my novel, they kind of just separate a scene into two different parts if I want to focus on a different tone. Um, and then another thing that I'll do is I'll add a paragraph or two to kind of ease people into it. It's still something I struggle with, is the tone whiplash. Um, I still like the changing of tones because I feel like it's pretty important, but I do agree that I have struggles with it and it needs to be improved. This one is I'm a bit of a pantser and a plotter at the same time. So if you don't know what a pantser is someone who kind of writes by the seat of their pants. They just do it instinctively. They don't really think about it. They don't really take down a lot of notes. They just start writing. A plotter is someone who just plots out like in extreme detail, like entire novel, what's going to happen in every single chapter. And with me, it took me years of playing around with both being solely a pantser and solely being a plotter to realize I hate both of them, but I like it when they're together. Because the issue with the pantser is I'm like, I I don't like this because there's no structure and there's kind of an end goal I want to reach, and my characters aren't reaching that end goal because they're doing whatever they want. With a plotter is I get bored halfway through and I'm like, these characters, they're not really going down this path anymore, and I'm not really quite sure how to handle this. And what I've realized is I do my story writing and my plots in pieces. So I'll usually have like a pretty generic end goal. So with the Fantastic Fairy Tale, it was fight Victor. That was the end goal. Just Kate versus Victor, and that was it. That's the end goal. How Kate gets there wasn't really written down. Um, I just wrote every single story, then paused, found out, okay, where is Kate? What's going on? How is this Nets story and this Nets villain going to kind of affect Kate in a certain way? And then I kind of build off of that until we hit Victor. And I'm like, okay, now Kate is going to fight Victor, but how is this really going to turn out? What's going through her head? And that's what I kind of do with my story writing is I'll write like 5 or 10 chapters, and then I'll pause, think about it, like, okay, what's next? What's going through the characters' minds? What's going through the villain's mind? And then I'll plot out the next 5 or 10 chapters, reach those 5 or 10 chapters, and repeat the process. And that to me has been very helpful because if I need to change something on the fly, I can do that. One of the big ones in the Fantastic Fairy Tale was Zad's death. He was not supposed to die. I did not plan on that at all. I just woke up that morning right before I went to work and I was just thinking to myself, yeah, it's better if Zach dies. And I was able to quickly just add that into my story without that having a drastic change on the rest of the story. The same thing kind of happened with Shadowclaw, where I was like, oh no, this whole idea of Shadowclaw is just not very good. It's pushing negative stereotypes. Here, let me tweak it really quick. And because I hadn't really fleshed out the plot in the chapters of stories 8 and 9, it was just really easy to make that fit. The end goal was still there, Kate versus Victor. But now because Shadowclaw is no longer an enemy, I could easily add Kate and Shadowclaw versus Victor, and it wasn't a big deal. I was able to make that easy change. Another thing that I kind of do that a lot of other people don't is I do editing, plotting, and writing all at the same time. I'll just go through my writing and I'll decide maybe I want to do a bit more editing today. Maybe I want to do a little bit of plotting. So I'll take down some notes and I'll think about them. And then once we get to that point, I'm like, do I still want to kind of go in that direction or not? But at least I have notes if I want to go um, to that story, to that part of the story, I mean. Um, and then I do a lot of writing. At the same time, I'm usually editing while I'm writing as well, because I like to look back on the previous parts of the story and just kind of think to myself, okay, what's going on? Let me get a good refresher. Let me change things up a little bit so that way it fits my current part of the story better. And so that's just kind of what I do. This one is very unique. I haven't heard anyone else really do this, which is create musical playlists for important characters. So I have entire playlists for both Kate and Victor, and I really like that because it kind of gets me in the mood of writing both of those characters. With Victor's, a lot of his songs are a lot about control, dominance, excitement, feeling like you're on the top of the world and you can kind of do whatever you want, because that's who Victor really is. Meanwhile, Kate's, hers is interesting because I added songs throughout the novel, so you can see her change throughout the playlist. So her songs start off as very upbeat, very positive, and then it starts going into more like determination of like, I can do hard things. And then she reaches her breaking point, Sad's death. It becomes very sad, very depressive, and then it starts going more uplifting again. And that to me is very interesting because I can tell you what each of those songs represent in the novel. I can tell you what scene that those songs came through my mind. And I really like that because I can see Kate's journey through a playlist. And that to me is just very interesting. So that's how I kind of get motivated when I'm thinking about writing a certain character. And it's something I want to do with other stories in the future. This one's a pretty big one, and I know I need to do better. Is I don't read. I used to read all the time in middle school and high school. Usually, I would read a book and finish it within a week or 2 weeks, and then I hit college and I can't read again. There was just something about those textbooks because I'm just reading so much and analyzing so much data that I'm like I can't look at another book again. It was just really rough, and to this day, even trying to read a book kind of gets me like nauseous and gives me headaches. Um, I've been trying to kind of balance it out and do better by like reading manga or doing like visual novels because they're easier. So I've done that a little bit. That's been pretty helpful. Unfortunately, those two don't really help out with descriptions because a lot of it is, well, visual. But it helps with a little bit of like character dialogue, a little bit of storytelling. I do want to get back into reading a book. It's just it's just been so difficult ever since college that just kind of get back into that process of reading a novel simply because I had to read so many textbooks in college and I would spend a good 3 to 4 hours a day looking at a screen and just reading all this random information and it just drove me nuts. Um, so I'm trying to get back into reading, and I'm hoping that will help improve my writing in the future. So these are the sorts of things about my writing style that I want to talk about. Some things are really good, and some things I really need to work on. But I mean, this is a kind of self improvement sort of YouTube channel, so I'm recording my history, all the good and all the bad. So we'll see how we are in a couple of years. Thanks for listening. Bye.